Hey there, Dice Slingers and Dragon Slayers. I'm Richie, your forever DM, and today on Dragons and Dice, we're talking about 4 fun things to add to your home game that don't involve combat. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. Okay, D&D dames and dudes, here we go with ways to keep your game moving without getting bogged down in that 5e combat. I know stuff needs to die so that those PCs can flex their meta game muscles, but it can get really tedious at times to run a whole bunch of fights every single session, especially if you're running a big table. I have 5 to 8 PCs in each of my sessions on my home game, and it's either a cakewalk for them, or if I try to make it challenging, we end up with 2 battles that end up taking the entire night. So here are some things that I like to do to keep it interesting and keep the evening moving. Okay, with me today is one of my PCs from my home game. Her name's Emmy.
Hello.
But she prefers that I call her Dragon. But only if she'll call me Nighthawk.
Okay, I'll call you Nighthawk.
All right. So what are your thoughts on the fights in D&D 5e?
I think you're right that sometimes they do get a little tedious, but they're fun. Depends on the situation. I think it's nice to have a little variety.
Yeah, I agree. So the first one we're going to go over is something I like to do as a way of kind of like making combat a little more cinematic. And these are just skill challenges. It builds some tensions in these settings because they're fast-paced, and it lets the players show off their creativity. I set up a couple of ground rules for each one of these. I like a 60-40 split on the pass-to-fail ratio, or 3 passes to 2 fails, or 6 passes to 4 fails, and so on. The next rule is that you can't use the same governing attribute as the person before you. So if the fighter did a strength check to topple a cart in front of the chasing guards, the next player has to do a move that doesn't involve strength. Finally, you can't use the same governing stat on 2 of your turns in a row. This keeps the athletics and acrobatics checks from being overdone and makes the players be more creative. So the last skill challenge that I ran was there was a storm, they were on a ship, they got swarmed by Swahgan, and then they all got to pick something cool to do to try to save the ship so they wouldn't get blown off trail. So, Dragon, what are some of the things you like to do when you were in that skill challenge?
So my character is an air genasi, and I used my wind abilities to try to re-inflate the sails so we could keep sailing. However, I made a crappy roll and did nothing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you crit negged on that, and so it counted as 2 fails.
Yeah, fail. I also tried to use my dexterity to pick locks and go below and thieve, but also failed. So, still fun.
Not the best challenge for you, though. So, some good examples of the old classics are being chased by town guards, you try to escape a city, a parkour run to get out of a trashing temple, and yeah, if they don't Dwight, Michael, and Andy that crap and say parkour every time, I knock at least a D4 off the top of the rolls. You could always have the good old runaway mine car, hitting switches, trying to figure out which track to stay on. These skill challenges can be almost anything that you don't want to trudge through with all the complexities of combat, and it seems to help the players in the habit of being ready to do their turns, and that really bleeds over into combat and makes the whole game run smoother. So, here are 10 quick and easy skill challenges that you can add to your game, rapid fire form. We'll start with 3 that we've already listed with a quick description and then move on to the others. One caveat as the DM is that you have to have good descriptions of the area prepared. So if you're doing 6 successes before 4 fails, you need at least 9 good descriptions of what's going to happen, or it kind of defeats the purpose if the DM's the one dragging their feet on these things. For number 1, we're going with the guard chase. I like to put this in a bazaar or a town market area where there are people and lots of stuff to work with. Think opening scene from the 90s Disney cartoon Aladdin, and that's all you need for this. Just carts, peoples, rugs, bazaar tents to fall, and you're good to go. Number 2, parkour runs, as we mentioned. These are fun to let the players show off their superhero dexterity, and maybe they just want to Hulk smash their way through the wall. It can take place from falling temples, rooftop escapes, to running across the tops of trains, whatever your setting allows. For number 3, we're going to go with the minecart ride. It's a bit tropish, but I can't help but love these. Drop the party off in 1 or 2 minecarts, have them shoot switches and blow up stuff that's in the way, it needs to be cleared off the tracks, run them through a waterfall, have something for them to shoot while it happens, and do not forget that somewhere the track's out and you've got to make that big long jump.
So why are these considered tropish?
Well, tropes are just things that are used over and over and kind of like stereotypical. Like every time you're in a mine, there always seems to be the mine cart, and it's always got a track that's out. And
Okay, so not D&D tropish, just storyline tropish.
yeah, just storyline tropish.
I see.
They always end up being fun, I think. Okay, number 4, repelling attackers. This can take place on a ship, on top of a castle, kicking filthy orcses. It's time to push those ladders and Spartan kick dudes into oblivion. Thanks Helm Deep for this as inspo, and you're good.
Time to shut up or nut up.
Right. All right. So, if in your campaign, number 5, if you got ship travel, this is a fun way to spice it up rather than just being like, what do you all do for 3 days? This is like I talked about earlier with Dragon over here. Have a storm hit. Players have to secure sails, bail water, kick sea monsters off the board. I wouldn't suggest sinking the ship if they fail. That's just a little bit mean. But if they do fail, I like to put them off course by a couple days and put them a little bit away from where their destination was supposed to be. All right, number 6, we're going with chariot races. It's Ben-Hur time, baby. Put 2 to 3 people on each one and have a race as part of like an arena challenge or as a way to travel from one place to the next. Races fit with any level of technology. You can do horse races all the way up to spaceship races around that asteroid field. I like to run these more of a head-to-head with the PCs doing something and then the DM doing something. That way you can see who finishes first and have a reward if they win and a little bit of a loss if they don't.
So like the pod races that little baby Anakin does in Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah, stuff along that lines works out really well as instead of having to do it turn by turn and marking out each person's movement, it's a way of fast pacing it.
Ah, cool.
Now for number 7, we're going with performances. These are basically circus acts. You end up with that party who claims that they're the traveling band from Westminster to Fieldville, and then you make them put their money where their mouth is and do a skills challenge to see how well they perform for the king. For number 8, it's a little bit different. We're going with infiltration. These are fun ways to do stealth events that takes it away from just your rogue who at level 6 is going to auto-succeed on every stealth check that they ever do. And it lets you have some fun with the whole party getting to be involved in sneaking around, stealing crap, breaking in, do that heist. And it's just a fun way to let the rest of the team be part of it. All right, Dragon, you got any ideas for a good skill challenge?
Sure. So basically this one is just chasing people. So it's like a guard chase, but in reverse. So a little street urchin, Aladdin cough, picked your pocket and took off. Now you have to catch them. I like these because you can set it up to where the players can't damage the person or the item that they're carrying. But they also work well with any technology level. So that kid who stole your purse, a Haragon bouncing away with a box of TNT, or a robot that took the dilithium crystals and is making a run for it. Works for it all.
It sure does. Okay, the last thing that I like to use skills challenge for is sometimes you end up a party who just can't decide on what to do, and after they've bickered around for a while, you can just make them do a skill challenge and the winning team gets to go that way. I don't allow inter-party damage and combat on my tables. Just think it leads to bad stuff, and so you can let them split the party up, perform feats of strength, smart, and survival, and whichever team wins gets to do that thing that they wanted to.
Or, of course, you can not make it balanced and then watch the players get pissed at each other or at you, the DM.
That's always fun. They're always pissed at me, so it doesn't really matter.
That's true. We are.
The next non-combat thing I've done that goes over really well is if your dungeon crawl area has multiple levels, you can make one of the levels a non-combat event. I like the straight Temple of Doom ripoff. Put something the party needs at the start or at the end, and when they grab it, they have to race back out. DMs beware though. They will see this coming, and they will do everything they can to try to trick their way out of it. The last one of these I did had a huge rolling boulder, and then a creation bard trapped me in 3 questions. Hey DM, how big is that rolling boulder? I don't know, 9.5 feet in diameter. It fills the whole hall from left to right with about 3 foot above it. Cool. How long's it been rolling? Not too long, maybe 20 feet. Is stone and wood expensive? No. Perfect. I played my Song of Creation, making a ramp 8 feet tall to catch stone boulder as it comes rolling down the ramp. Okay, I guess that works. It turns out I was trapped. Never let a creation bard at your table. They will trick you in so many ways. It ended up being a really fun night, though, and everybody at my table was a really good sport. We counted the dungeon as cleared, and then went ahead and played it, and it was one of the most fun nights we've had. So this is a good way to add in extra stuff that doesn't involve combat, that still lets players do really cool stuff, and makes for a fun event.
Our bard is a very experienced D&D player and does this sort of thing pretty regularly, so unless you're playing with similar people, I doubt it would be a problem, right?
Yeah, most of the time, players are pretty good sports about it. Even if they trick you, they'll still go and do the fun stuff that you've created for them. So it works out in the end. In my Temple of Doom, I used a corkscrew-shaped area where they grabbed the item and then had to run back out. I play tested this for 3 or 4 hours at a 25-foot speed of movement. It had pits, spinning blades of death, viney walls to climb, and they could do different things as they come to each of the obstacles that gave them a chance to move faster or slower. Like the beams that they had to cross, they could either try to sprint across and make a dexterity save, or they could go at half speed and not have to worry about falling. And the most important thing, if you do a Temple of Doom run, somewhere at the end, there has to be the falling wall, complete with someone dropping something. In this case, it turned out to be our bard who dropped his loot, had to roll back and grab it, and was able to save it just as the wall came crashing down. For number 3, we're going Viva Las Vegas. That's right, good old gambling halls. A place where you can part that party from all the gold, silver, and coppers that they've earned along the way in games of skill and chance. I like to have 3 or 4 games for them to play. I normally do a D20 roulette game. It's super easy. You just make a roulette board out of a piece of graph paper or whatever map creation software you use. You can do individual numbers, odds, evens, highs, lows, and if you build it on a rectangle, you can do columns and rows. I take 5% of it off the top, just like a casino would, and then let the players go to gambling. The next one I really like is called Liar's Poker. For this, you just need a deck of cards. The player's ante, they draw a card but don't get to look at it. Hold it up to their forehead so that the table can see, and let the players bet and call up to 3 raises. High card wins. It's real simple, but it always ends up being a good time when that person with a 2 is gambling against a guy with an ace, but neither one knows what they have. The last one to add in is what I call Dragon's Dice. And this is the game Dudo, and it's what they played on Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest.
Okay, so remind me which part of that movie you're referencing, because it's not ringing any bells.
It's the part where Orlando Bloom wants to find out where Davy Jones is hiding his key, and so he challenges him to a game of dice, and then his dad hops in so that he doesn't lose the wager and intentionally loses to protect him.
Okay.
For the Dragon's Dice, all you need are 5d6 per person and a cup to keep them under. The players ante up, then they roll in secret under their cups, and then the first player up call a number of dice and what the value. They're like, I've got 3 4s. The next person would be like, yeah, so what? I've got 3 6s, or I've got 4 2s. When the calls and bets are done, the players show their dice. The person who had the high call that's true wins, and liars have to put in 2 times the ante when they lose. I find that these are fun games to add into anywhere in your towns or taverns as you go through. You can also pack them in as part of a quest, like a crime boss wants you to clean out a competing gambling tavern, or they need an item from a disreputable NPC, and the only way to get it is to play them for it. There's lots of ways to integrate these into your games. Okay, the 4th one is Nightly Games. It's adding in a tournament of some sort that isn't just an arena battle, and this can turn into a super fun night. You put on your best Caesar Flickerman outfit, pull out that announcer voice, and be the master of ceremonies. I think it's just as much fun as anything you can do as a DM. I suggest having an individual event for each PC and then a team event for the group. Most of the ones I've done are based off of the Olympic Games, so here are a few examples. Like a shot put throw, you can build obstacle courses. We built a crudgel ball game, which is like golf with dice. We did a triple jump. And then for the team event, you can do archery competitions where each person gets to shoot from a different range. Team points, highest team wins. You can do chariot races, relay races, or whatever fits with your campaign settings. So, what was your favorite parts of the games?
Well, I didn't get to play the cudgel ball or the golf in the actual campaign. We played it later, and it was really fun. So I would say that was my favorite.
It was my favorite too. I've actually sat at home and played that one by myself when I'm bored. The most important thing about all this stuff that you make is that you play test it some before you start. I had to redo a couple of the shot put things. I had to redo the cudgel golf. It just takes a little bit of time to make sure that the numbers work out with the dice that you're rolling for each. These are just a few of the fun things I like to implement in my games to keep them fresh and different. They're great places for role play, they all move quickly, and you get to roll a whole bunch of dice as you do them. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. Thanks for listening, and if you like what we're doing here, please like, subscribe, or leave a review. It really helps with exposure of a new show. So until next time, may your D20s roll high, and may your DMs be kind.